It was a cold December night when Arizona Transit Police Officer Jeremy Walsh began his overnight shift. That night at 11:58:17 p.m., his body camera would record something that defied all logic and reason, an event that would remain classified in the department's files for nearly a decade before leaking to the public. What the images showed was impossible, and yet it was there, recorded in high definition, impossible to deny or explain. Jeremy Walsh had 42 years of experience in the police force. A decorated veteran, father of 3, a man of faith and reason. Nothing in his 20-year career had prepared him for that night. The interstate highway was deserted, as it always was after 11 o'clock at night on that stretch between Phoenix and Tucson. The asphalt stretched black and endless under the starlight, only occasionally interrupted by the headlights of some lone trucker or late-night traveler. Walsh was stopped on the shoulder, finishing up the paperwork for a previous traffic ticket when he saw the headlights approaching. The vehicle was traveling at a moderate speed, a silver sedan that seemed perfectly normal at first glance. But something caught his attention. The car swayed slightly between lanes, not abruptly, but with that characteristic movement of someone who is too tired or under the influence of something. Walsh turned on his hazard lights and began the routine pursuit. The sedan didn't accelerate, didn't try to flee. It simply continued for a few more meters before gently pulling over to the side of the road. Walsh turned on the radio, reported the vehicle's license plate and its exact location at kilometer 123 of the interstate. The dispatcher confirmed receipt. Everything was perfectly normal up to that point. Walsh checked his weapon, adjusted the body camera, which was perfectly functional, and approached the vehicle with his flashlight in hand. The recording shows his careful steps on the gravel of the shoulder of the road, the sound of his boots on the ground, his calm, controlled breathing. He approaches the driver's side window from the left, maintaining a safe position, his flashlight pointed into the vehicle. And then he sees. The camera captures everything. Inside the car is a man, or something that once was a man. His face is unnaturally pale, his eyes deep-set and lifeless, but wide and fixed on the road ahead. His mouth is open in an impossible smile, too wide, with teeth stained with something dark. His orange prison uniform is torn and stained with dried, darkened blood. Walsh instinctively recoils, his hand reaching for his gun. The camera shakes slightly. He orders the driver to show his hands, but the man doesn't move, doesn't blink, doesn't breathe. He simply continues with that horrible smile, hands on the steering wheel, eyes fixed ahead. Walsh repeats the command, louder now, his voice tense but still controlled. Nothing. No reaction. That's when he notices the man's chest isn't moving. There's no movement whatsoever to indicate breathing, and yet the car was moving moments before. The officer takes a few more steps back, never taking his eyes off the driver, and picks up the radio. His voice on the recording is altered now. There's something about it that wasn't there before. Fear, confusion. He calls for backup, describing the situation in a rushed manner, a possible corpse at the wheel. But the car was moving. It was driving. This doesn't make sense. The dispatcher asks him to repeat. There's confusion on the line. Walsh is about to respond when he hears the sound. A low, dragging creak comes from inside the car, the kind of sound an old door makes when it's slowly opened. The body camera pans sharply as Walsh looks at the driver's side door. It's opening, inch by inch, as if moved by a hesitant or weak force. And then the creature that was behind the wheel puts a foot out. The recording shows nauseating detail. The foot is bare, the skin yellowed and mottled, the toenails black and long. It touches the asphalt, and the entire body moves out of the vehicle in a mechanical and disjointed movement, like a puppet being manipulated by invisible strings. Walsh shouts for it to stop, the gun now pointed directly at the figure. But it doesn't stop. It simply stands up, all crooked and wrong, the joints moving at angles that shouldn't be possible. That's when Walsh finally sees the identification badge on the orange jumpsuit, a number, 23794, and suddenly he remembers. 3 days earlier, there had been a statewide alert. A prisoner had escaped during a transfer. Marcus Holloway, convicted of multiple murders, a serial killer who had terrorized the region years before. And Marcus Holloway had been declared dead after a chase that ended in a shootout. 2 shots to the chest, 1 to the head. Confirmed dead at the scene by forensics. The creature before him is Marcus Holloway. Walsh's camera captures the face with horrifying clarity. The bullet wounds are there, dark holes in his chest and temple, but they don't bleed. There's no fresh blood, just dead, desiccated tissue. And yet, he's standing, he's moving. His head slowly turns toward Walsh, and that impossible smile seems to widen even further. His dead eyes blink once, twice, the movement slow and deliberate like that of a reptile. Walsh fires. Once, twice, 3 times. The camera records each shot, the recoil of the gun, the flashes in the dark. They all hit. Their target. Holloway's body shakes with the impacts. New holes open in his already perforated chest, but he doesn't fall. He doesn't scream. He simply keeps moving forward with that broken, mechanical gait. Each step is accompanied by a damp sound of dead flesh moving, bones creaking inside an envelope of skin that shouldn't be moving anymore. The officer steps back, stumbles over his own feet, almost falls. The camera shows the sky for a second before stabilizing again. Walsh is running now, returning to the patrol car, but something is wrong. His steps seem slow, very slow, as if he were moving through molasses. The recording shows a strange glitch. The image freezes for half a second before returning. When it returns, Holloway is closer, much closer than he should be. Impossible that he covered that distance in that time. Walsh reaches the patrol car, tries to open the door, but it won't open. Locked. He knows he didn't lock it. He never locks it when he goes out for a routine. Stop, but it's locked. He looks through the window and sees something that makes his blood run cold. In the back seat of the patrol car, where there shouldn't be anyone, there's a silhouette. Dark, motionless, watching. The camera pans as Walsh turns abruptly. Holloway is standing 3 meters away now, his head tilted at an unnatural angle, as if his neck were broken. That smile, always that smile. And then he speaks. The voice that comes from that dead mouth is not human. It's multiple, overlapping, as if several voices were speaking in unison. Some high-pitched, some low-pitched, all distorted and wrong. He says a name, Jessica, the name of Walsh's daughter, his youngest daughter, only 8 years old. How does he know that name? How could that dead thing know? Walsh is screaming now, asking how he knows, what he wants, but Holloway just keeps repeating, Jessica, Jessica, Jessica. Each repetition in a different tone, sometimes like a whisper, other times like a muffled scream. The camera shows Walsh raising the gun again, but his hand trembles so much he can barely hold it. He fires the rest of the magazine. Each bullet hits, bits of dead tissue fly. But Holloway doesn't stop. He doesn't react. He simply keeps moving forward, repeating that name, that smile widening until it looks like his face will split in 2. Walsh throws the empty gun away. There's no time to reload, and starts running down the highway. The body camera footage becomes chaotic, feet thumping on the asphalt, gasping and desperate breaths, the world swaying at crazy angles. Walsh looks back and the camera captures it. Holloway isn't running, he's walking, that same mechanical, broken walk, but he's gaining ground. Every time Walsh looks, he's closer, even if his speed seems impossible to explain the distance covered. Headlights appear on the road. A car approaches from the opposite direction. Walsh runs into the middle of the road, waving frantically, yelling for them to stop. The car slows down, honks, narrowly swerves to avoid him, and accelerates again, disappearing into the night. They didn't stop. They didn't see, or they saw, and didn't want to get involved. Walsh is alone on that dark road with that thing that shouldn't be moving. He stumbles, falls to his knees on the rough asphalt. The camera shows his scratched hands trying to get up, and then a shadow falls over him. Holloway is there, standing, blocking the starlight. The camera pans up and captures that face in a horrifying close-up. The grey, stretched skin over the bones, the lifeless but somehow conscious eyes, that smile that reveals too many teeth, and something is wrong with his mouth. There's something moving inside it, something dark and twisted that shouldn't be there. Holloway crouches down, the movement slow and deliberate, until his face is inches from the camera, inches from Walsh's face. The breath that comes from that mouth is of putrefaction and earth, the smell of tomb and decay. The multiple voice whispers now, so low it's barely audible on the recording. He says something in a language Walsh doesn't recognize. Ancient words. Wrong. Words that cause the camera itself to begin to malfunction, static lines cutting across the image. And then, as suddenly as it began, it ends. Holloway's dead hand rises and touches the camera, a simple touch. The screen goes black instantly. There's no static, no gradual fade, just sudden darkness. The audio continues for another 10 seconds. You can hear something, a wet sound, organic, and a muffled scream that's cut off in the middle. When the backup team finally arrived, 20 minutes after Walsh's last communications, they found the vehicle empty on the side of the road. The driver's door was open, the engine was still running, the silver sedan was gone, and a database search would show that the license plate belonged to a vehicle that had been scrapped 3 years earlier. Impossible that it was on the road, and yet it was. Walsh was found 3 hours later, walking barefoot along the road 20 kilometers south. He was in a state of deep shock, unable to speak, his eyes fixed on some distant point that no one else could see. His boots were never found. His gun was empty, all the bullets fired, but there was no bullet casing at the scene of the encounter. The body camera was damaged, cracked, as if it had been shattered by immense force, but the internal data was intact. It took 3 days for Walsh to start talking again. When he finally did, all he said was that he needed to see his daughter. He needed to make sure Jessica was okay. She was. Scared by her father's condition, but physically unharmed. But something had changed in Walsh. His colleagues noticed. His family noticed. He no longer slept. He spent his nights awake, sitting in the dark room, looking out the window, waiting. The official investigation concluded that Walsh had suffered some kind of stress-induced psychotic episode. The recording was considered compromised evidence due to damage to the camera and glitches in the image. The department offered psychological treatment. Walsh refused. He knew what he had seen. He knew the recording showed the truth, however impossible it might seem. 2 months later, he resigned from the police force. But the story doesn't end there. It never ends. 3 months after that night, another police officer made a routine stop on a deserted stretch of the same highway. A silver sedan, driving erratically. The driver was wearing orange prison clothes. He had gunshot wounds to the chest and head. He was dead, and yet he was driving. That second officer's body camera captured everything before malfunctioning in the same way. Touch, darkness, muffled scream. Reports began to pile up, always the same area, always the same description. A dead man behind the wheel, a corpse that moves, that speaks, that knows things it shouldn't know, the names of the police officers' children, the secret fears, the hidden guilt. Each encounter ended the same way, damaged cameras, officers in shock, and that silver sedan disappearing into the night as if it had never existed. The FBI was eventually called in, agents specializing in unsolved cases. They reviewed all the recordings, interviewed all the witnesses. Their conclusion was classified, but leaks suggested something disturbing. The recording showed the same entity, Marcus Holloway, but cross-checks with prison records confirmed that Holloway's body had been cremated 3 days after his death, as per state protocol for prisoners without claiming family. His ashes were scattered in a common cemetery. There was no body to animate. There was no physical possibility that it was him. And yet there he was, in the recordings, in the accounts, always the same face, the same smile, the same orange clothes stained with blood, driving a car that didn't exist, appearing on a specific highway as if he were trapped there. Condemned to repeat something, an unfinished mission, justice not served, Jeremy Walsh was never the same again. He moved with his family to another state, changed his name, tried to start over. But once a month, always on the same date, he received a call. No one on the other end, just breathing. No, not breathing. The opposite of breathing. A sound of air being sucked in, as if something dead was trying to remember what it was like to be alive. And in the background, very low, a multiple voice, whispering a name, Jessica. The highway remains open. Drivers pass by every day, oblivious. But the local traffic police know this. There's a specific stretch from kilometer 120 to 130 that no one patrols alone after 11 p.m. There's a tacit agreement, always in pairs, always alert. And if they see a silver sedan driving erratically, let it pass. Don't pull it over. Call them on the radio, but don't pull them over. Because Walsh's recording wasn't the only one that eventually leaked. There were others, dozens of them, all showing the same thing, the same encounter, the same ending. And in all of them, in the final seconds before the camera fails, Holloway says something different to each officer. Something personal, something only they would know. As if he could see inside them, as if death had given him access to something beyond the veil. Forbidden knowledge, hidden truths. A paranormal researcher who studied the case proposed a theory. Marcus Holloway wasn't just a murderer. He was what some call a vessel. Something had entered him long before his crimes. Something ancient that used his human form to do what it wanted to do. And when the body died, what was inside didn't die with it. It simply continued. It found a way to manifest itself, to create a temporary physical presence, an echo, a memory so strong of the form it once inhabited that it becomes real for moments. The theory has never been proven. How could it be? But it explains certain things. Why he always appears in that specific spot. That's where the shooting happened. That's where the original body fell. That's where the last drop of blood touched the asphalt. Places of violent death bear marks. Memories imprinted on reality like photographs burned into film. And some memories are strong enough to recreate themselves, to manifest when the conditions are right. Officers who survived the encounters describe a specific feeling, a weight in the air before they see the car, as if the temperature suddenly drops, as if something is about to cross a boundary that shouldn't be crossed. And there's always a smell, damp earth and rusty metal, the smell of coffins and old blood. A disturbing detail emerges when the recordings are carefully analyzed. In the reflection of the sedan's windows, on the dark surfaces, it's possible to see figures, silhouettes in the back seat, in the trunk, faces in the windows that shouldn't be there. As if Holloway wasn't alone in that car, as if he were transporting something or someone. Uninvited passengers who were traveling anyway. Victims, some speculate. The people Holloway killed, somehow bound to him, forced to repeat that nightly journey eternally. Their faces appear for fractions of a second in the recordings. Frozen expressions of terror, mouths agape in silent screams, hands pressed against glass as if trying to escape. The last confirmed recording dates back 6 months. Officer Sarah Chen, 28 years old, 5 years in the force. She was finishing her shift almost at the end of the night when she saw the lights. A silver sedan, driving too slowly. Chen was skeptical. She didn't believe the stories. She thought they were urban legends that older officers told to scare the newcomers. She made the approach. Her camera captured everything. Holloway in the driver's seat, that smile, those dead eyes. But this time, it was different. Chen didn't back down. She didn't shoot. She stood there, watching, trying to understand. And Holloway did something he hadn't done before. He spoke first. He didn't say a name. He said a date. March 23rd, The camera shows Chen turning pale. That date meant something to her, something no one knew. And then Holloway reached out his hand. The dead, stained hand. An offer. An invitation. The camera shows Chen hesitating, her hand slowly rising, approaching that cadaverous hand, fingers almost touching. And at the last second, she pulls away, retreats, runs. The camera shakes as she returns to the patrol car. But when she looks back, the sedan is empty. Doors closed, engine off, no one at the wheel. Chen reported that when she arrived home that morning, there was a message on her answering machine, a voice she recognized immediately, her mother, who had died 3 years earlier. The message said only one thing: don't go back down that road. He's waiting. He's always waiting. Sarah Chen requested a transfer the next day. She was transferred to a precinct 200 kilometers away. She never patrolled that highway again. But sometimes, driving at night, she sees a silver sedan in her rearview mirror, always keeping its distance, always behind, never overtaking, as if it were following, watching, waiting for the right moment. The question no one can answer is simple. What does Marcus Holloway want? Why does he remain there? What binds him to that patch of asphalt? Some say it's revenge, anger over a violent death. Others suggest it's something deeper, an unfulfilled purpose, uncollected souls. Or perhaps it's simpler than that. Maybe he's just doing what he's always done, hunting, searching, waiting for the right victim, the one who won't back down, the one who will accept the outstretched hand. The police department stopped issuing official statements about the incidents. Officially, there's no pattern, no connection between the cases, just coincidences, stressed officers seeing things that aren't there. But unofficially, everyone knows there's an unwritten protocol, a rule passed down in whispers from veterans to rookies. If you see a silver sedan on that stretch of road after midnight, let it go. No matter what it's doing, no matter how it's driving, let it pass. Because some drivers shouldn't be stopped. Some vehicles carry more than passengers, and some roads belong to the dead after the sun goes down. Jeremy Walsh's body camera remains on display in some federal archive, damaged, cracked, but functional, and sometimes technicians working late. Ours report something strange. The camera turns on by itself, the screen shows static, and through the static, for just a second, it's possible to see a face, pale, smiling, watching back, as if it knew it was being watched, as if it liked being watched, as if it were waiting for someone to finally understand, to open the door, to accept the invitation. Join the passengers in the back seat of that sedan that shouldn't exist, driving down a road that never ends, on a night that never dawns.